And so it's 12 o'clock, so I'll just begin a bit more formally and we'll start setting up to begin the meditation about 5 past. But if you was with us last week, you'll know that for my personal practice, when we get to a Friday, I do like to do a bit of work, just thinking about what's been going on in the week, what I can let go of, what I can draw a line under, what I can tick off my list. I don't know about you, but I do like to make lists. So which ones have we done with? Which ones do we not need to think more about? They're in the past, they're done. Which things are ongoing, of course, that are important for us to hold in mind, but not to dwell on, not to let the mind wander to, not to let it worry about. So sort of just holding those things and saying to our mind, yep, I've got them. That will have its own moment when the time comes. And then thinking about what things then can I just let go of completely? What space can I keep free for dealing with the unknowns? We've been talking a lot about that. And this is why when I teach mindfulness, the very different groups I do, such as trainee teachers, trainee medics, social workers, people like that, often we do a lot of work on resilience. People talk about resilience as being the ability to bounce back, which is part of it, yeah, but it's also about having the capacity to deal with the things that we can't plan for, or when things don't turn out the way we expected them to. And so keeping that free bit of capacity, not being a full cup, helps us with our resilience and helps us to negotiate and navigate the daily things. So mindfulness, of course, is tied very closely to that. And that's quite a nice thing to do. Hi, Graham. Nice of you to join us again. Hope everything's okay. Yeah, Harps, it's nice, isn't it? Just a bit of space, just with the breath, with each moment, just accepting and acknowledging that we don't have to fill those moments. In fact, if we just go into observer mode, we if you've been with me before, as many of you have been, the language that John Kabat-Zinn uses is detachment, which I'm not fond of as a word because it sounds like you're detaching emotionally and you're being cold about things. And it doesn't mean that, but it means about being able to experience things, but being detached from our habitual responses to those things. And that's really at the heart of mindfulness. Can we observe things in ourselves and outside of ourselves, as we've been doing a lot of in these sessions? Can we observe those things, but then as the habitual responses come, can we just choose a different pathway? Can we just be with the moment rather than having to try to fix it or judge it or commentate on it, moan about it? That's really when we're accessing the pure mindful state. So do a bit of more work on that. That's what the foundational practices of mindfulness are all about, building in us. And the more we can find space for that, the more balance we can bring to our everyday life. And of course, that's what these sessions are about. You might have seen, it might have pinged you if you've subscribed to the channel, that I've set up for Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday next week. Then, of course, we're into the Easter period. So for me, my personal practice will lean much more heavily towards my own faith. So there'll be sort of a bit of time where I'll be engaged in that. But I might come back then the week after, sort of Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We'll see. But obviously, if you're subscribed, then you'll always be kept informed of that. But yeah, we've got 3 sessions next week that you can join in on. I might do some recordings maybe to post over Easter as well. Maybe some more in the moment things. See how I feel. I might even record maybe a bit of Christian mindfulness that I'll be doing myself and post that out there. But as I say, if you're subscribed to the channel, it will keep you informed of the new things that I'll pop out there as well. But we can always keep this space together going forward. Would be nice. Okay, great. So if anybody else joins us from here on out, then wonderful. They can just pick up. And sometimes people do. They come in sort of 10 minutes in and just sit with that. So that's great. But for us today, we can begin the process of just creating the mindset of mindfulness. And of course, we've got techniques to move us closer towards that state. But the first thing is often underestimated. I go to mindfulness conferences and workshops and sessions where, People don't even say, okay, let's just relax, just have a shuffle, find a nice place, be happy in your personal space, declutter. But all of those things are important because it's just setting the tone, and the mind follows that. So, okay, I know what's going on here. And it just opens that door a little bit more. So that's why we always do that together. So we can do that now if you want to just make yourselves nice and relaxed. Whatever position is good for you, wherever you are. Just making sure you're happy in your personal space, your surroundings. And then, of course, we can close our eyes if we'd like to, or we can keep them open too, that's fine. Or open and close them as you go along, as you see best. But let's take that first step together today, which is always just pausing and noticing what's going on around us right now. So let's start outside of the body as we always do. We've been working on noticing sounds, particularly differences in sounds. We've been noticing body temperature, warm parts, cool parts. We've been noticing textures of anything we can feel, or anything else you want to. But let's just begin by spending a few moments connecting with now. As we've been trying, push your awareness to the features of your experience now. Maybe try to hear the quietest sound you can hear. To feel the lightest texture you can touch. And this is why mindfulness is good for our awareness skills. We begin to notice smaller and smaller details, what's called novel distinctions. And then, of course, the next step is to move the awareness from outside of ourselves to inside of ourselves as we notice how we are right here, right now. Let's accept whatever we find. The first job is to notice with acceptance, or notice in neutral, as I often call it. We've been using the natural breath, so if you want to connect with your natural breath now, you can notice the pace of it and the depth of it, and the way it's moving the body for us right now. Just trying to move the mind out of the equation here, trusting and accepting the body to take care of the breath. We can move into that observer mode, just allowing the rhythm to be. And yesterday we sat with the natural breath a bit longer. Today, though, we're going to move quicker into the mind itself, so we want to take some intentionality with us. We want to take an anchor point, a grounding point with us to do that. And that's where we need to change the breath. So if you've used a deep mindful breath with me before, you can find your breath now. If you've used any other type of deep breathing you want to use, you can find that now. But just try to find a breath that's different to your natural one. It's deeper, more rhythmical. The reason any of these breaths are called the mindful breath is because you have to pay attention to breathing that way. But what that also does, of course, is means there's less room for the mind to wander and worry away. So in this sense, our new breath becomes a mantra for us, something to focus upon and something to come back to when the mind wanders away. And we can push our awareness into the features of this bigger breath too. We can notice any change in sound maybe that comes with the bigger breath. We can notice how this breath feels for us today. Sometimes a deep cleansing breath, that's nice to use it in that way. Sometimes we can use it as a deep relaxing breath. Sometimes as an energizing breath. So whatever it is for you, notice, and you might be able to just lean your sensation of the breath to what you want it to be today. Let's notice the movement of the body now with the bigger breath. This new rhythm that we've brought to the rise and fall of the body. But again, let's push the awareness a little bit further. Maybe notice any subtle movements with this big breath that you can feel. For me right now, I can notice with the bigger breath, it just moves my jumper onto the collar of my shirt. I can just feel that slightly. This is all good practice for developing our awareness of now. And let's settle into this new rhythm we've found. Let's try to let go of the thoughts we don't need right now. To-do lists and commentary and judgments, all those things that we don't need. And instead, let's try to let some things grow. Let's try to grow an acceptance of ourselves, of our surroundings, of other people. Let's grow compassion as well for ourselves to begin with. Mindfulness is an inside-out approach. It's got to be authentic for ourselves first, and then we'll be authentic when we express it out to others too. We can bring that gentle curiosity as we're interested in our own experience, keeping this observer role, this witnessing of what's going on, as we notice things in neutral, and try just to make a positive change where we can. And we'll do that now in the body before we then go into the mind a little bit more. So just keeping the big breath rhythm, please. Keeping those attitudes that we've just grown. We'll just try to release any tension that we might find in the body. So let's just scan the lower half of the body to begin with, please. Just noticing the features of our sensations here, accepting whatever we find as always. But if we do notice anywhere that's tense or uncomfortable, even painful, we can spend a few of the deep breaths noticing, and then the out breath really trying to let go of that tension as much as we can today. And then moving the awareness up to the upper body, please. We could do the same there. But remember, we've got a couple of points to pay particular attention to. The shoulders are one, the back of the neck is another. Wherever you might find any tension, again, we can spend a few breaths trying to release it. And then bringing the awareness up to the face as we do, and the forehead, trying to relax the facial muscles. They work hard for us in a day. They do hold a lot of our emotions and tension. So try to let go of any frowning or grimacing you might be doing right now. Relaxing the whole body as much as we can. And then it's from the forehead that we can move the awareness back into the mind itself. And we've still got this witnessing brief, we're still in this observer mode. Only now we're going to be observing thoughts as they arise. We're still trying to accept whatever comes up. Keeping the big breath rhythm. The in-breath can always be the noticing breath, so just notice whatever thoughts on your mind right now. Accept it. Don't try to push it down, let it air itself on the in-breath. Then it's with the out-breath that we try to release that thought. Maybe using imagery of clouds floating away or helium balloons. Maybe using a mantra word like clear or release. Let's just watch the thoughts for a moment, trying to let go whatever comes up. Then we'll do some more specific work at the end of the working week. And remember as we do this that big, dominant, important thoughts are hard to shift. They'll take some practice, so don't worry about those because we're decluttering it. And let's remember too, the mind will try to grab our attention, so it will give us weird and wonderful, scaring, embarrassing thoughts. Our job is to try to treat each one exactly the same. Accept it, but choose not to give it any more energy right now. And let's use this technique now to try to begin to bring some conclusion to our working week. So as we're watching the thoughts, you might get some random ones. So when the random ones come up, the peripheral ones, our job is to notice, to accept, and then to try hard to let them go. Use the out breath, be assertive with it, use imagery or a mantra. But we might get some thoughts come up that are about things we've done this week. And again, we can notice and accept those on the in-breath. And on the out-breath, we want to almost have the attitude to ourselves that that is done with, that is in the past. We can leave it there. We can draw a line under it and let it go. Of course, you may have some thoughts that are about things which are left still to do. They're undone. They're yet to be concluded. Again, when those thoughts come up, let's notice them, let's accept them. And here we want to acknowledge their importance and then try to park them. So always have the attitude, the confidence with the out-breath saying, yep, I've got that. It will have its moment where I shall give it its due attention. And then finally, you might have some thoughts that come up that are emergent, that you think, oh, actually, that's something I've not thought about, but is important. Again, acknowledge its importance. Almost have the attitude that you're flagging it up now. You will come back to it later and pop it on the list. And try to let that one go too. Let's have a nice few minutes of quiet time now. Just watching these thoughts and trying to move beyond them in the different ways we've just spoke about. Trying to bring some conclusion as we move into Friday afternoon. And hopefully we've managed just a bit of organisation of the thoughts, letting go of the ones that we don't need, parking the ones that can wait. Maybe just acknowledging that when we create this space in the mind, the body and the emotions, we do get emergent thoughts that are important. They are good thoughts, they're creative, or they're problem-solving thoughts. And when we acknowledge those and flag them, they'll still be there for us when we come out of this state too. And you might also have found that we work on the one in-breath, one out-breath, the notice and the release. But often it doesn't work as neatly as that you notice a thought on your in-breath, and it's 3 or 4 breaths that you're still thinking about that till you remember that we need to try to let it go. And don't worry about that. Just treat it again the same, whatever your mind's doing on the in-breath, even if it's still mulling over a thought from 20 seconds ago. That's just our start point. That's what's on the mind. Let's see if the out-breath gives us an opportunity to let it go. And let's notice what this has been like for us today, not in a judgmental way, but in an experiential way. You can see how quickly the mind tries to hijack this space and wants us to think in detail about things that aren't now. So it takes some time and some practice to build up the strength to let it go. But it is possible. So notice how it was for you today. And then, of course, we're back to noticing the breath. Maybe we've kept the mindful rhythm. Maybe it's gone back to our shorter, shallower rhythm. Wherever it is, we'll accept it right here, right now. Let's just find a bigger breath again to use to bring the mind back to its normal waking state. Let's connect with the features of this breath once more. And we can use a few slightly quicker breaths, raising the awareness, opening the eyes, having a drink, a stretch, a shuffle, whatever you might need at your end. And we can come out of that state back to our normal waking state. You can bring out any new emergent thoughts that you had, maybe jot them down. And hopefully you're okay wherever you are. If you want to let me know in the chat, that'll be great. If you have any questions, comments, we'll leave it running for a few minutes as we do. But hopefully that technique just helps us to draw a line under the things that are done. We don't need to keep worrying about them. Of course, the mind wants to. It's used to doing it. And actually it serves the ego some functions in doing that. But we can choose not to. But hopefully we've also kept in mind the things we need to carry forward. And maybe we've brought some new thoughts to some creative ideas. So whatever it was for you, hopefully you found it just a nice way of bringing a bit of balance to the day. So Mara, thank you very much. Yeah, excellent. You're well used to that routine, but it's worth me keep saying that this is what I would do on a normal midday. And therefore it is important for say, okay, I've been doing mindfulness for 20 plus years, but the foundational practices are still the starting points. So if I've got 15, 20 minutes like we do, it's just the foundational practices. When I do my longer meditations, then it starts the same and then it moves, and some of you have done this with me before, it moves towards more the deeper, pure awareness state of mindfulness. Then for me, it moves into Christian mindfulness too. But the foundations are always there. The scaffolding is always the same. And that's good. These little things we can do. Great. So we've got Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday scheduled in, and I'll try to do a few other things there as well. The channel's got sort of 60 plus subscribers now, which is nice. So I'll keep trying to grow it. So if you know anybody else that might be interested, please send them the link, and we'll try to build up a little bit on it too as well. Lovely. Thanks, everybody. I hope you have a great rest of Friday and a great weekend, and hopefully catch up with you again next week. Pachinism, a great question. Entirely up to you. I mean, physical activity, I've been doing a Tabata exercise Monday to Friday. I really look forward not to having to do it Saturday and Sunday because it's quite a good physical workout, let's put it that way. Similar in the mind, I'd say, see how you feel. It might be that your mind is saying to you, okay, that's quite a routine thing that we're doing Monday to Friday there. Therefore, it might be nice just for me to not do any formal work. Or you might think, no, okay, I might go back and listen to a recording, or there's plenty out there on YouTube or on the internet. Generally, you can find a lot of things. So you could get sort of some other guided session from elsewhere. So you could keep up with the formal practice, have a complete break, or I think which what most clients do and students over the years, on the weekends, they say, okay, so I might not do anything formal, some sort of meditative mindfulness, but maybe I'll do mindful walking or just bring mindfulness to something I'm doing. Maybe it's cooking or eating or whatever it might be. So in mindfulness, we have what we call the formal practices, which is like what we're doing now, the meditative practices. Then we have the informal or in the moment, where we just bring more mindfulness to whatever it is we're doing. So as with always, mindfulness is your personal journey. See how you feel, see what's on your heart, and run with it. And remember, you can't do anything wrong. So if you try something, you think, man, no, my mind's not in that state, or it's hard to do it, without somebody guiding me, just let it go, because that's the reality of your now. You can try to bring a positive change to it. And in doing that, you'll be being mindful anyway. So I don't know whether that helps or not, but hopefully it does. But go with the flow, go with the moment, go with your feeling, and see where it takes you. Thanks, Graham. Take care of yourself. Lovely. Thanks, everybody. Hopefully see you again soon.